the memories are fading of those days so long ago now, when skies were turning gray. Let's not forget how together we blew away the clouds to let the sun shine through.
Cold out there.
Many down there this morning?
Oh, it's packed.
Is it? Must have got more rations than we've got then.
On Sunday, January the 8th, 1940, rationing began. Butter, sugar and bacon were the first items controlled. 2 months later, on March the 11th, meat was added to the list. Unlike the earlier foodstuffs, it was rationed by price, not weight. The cheaper the cut, the more you got.
You can put those away then when you've got your pinny tied up, and then I'll have a look and see what meat you've brought.
Ruth Mott unpacks the week's ration of meat for herself and the evacuees billeted on her, Joyce and her small son Paul.
This is a little bit of brisket, which I should do up with vegetables and that, but you must remember that this stuff will probably shrink, so it's not as much meat as it looks. So you're trying to make as much of it as you can. So we've bought this, which I shall bone out and do differently tomorrow.
Homegrown food was now vital. Garden advertisements were quick to link their products with the war effort. Cloches protect seedlings and bring on early crops, but assembling them requires nerves of steel from head gardener Harry Dodson and his inexperienced land girl.
Oh, Annie, I was coming for you. This is a nice job for a wet day. And I want you to carry on assembling these after I've showed you how simple it is. When you've put them together like that, just line them up with the palms of your hands. Otherwise, when they're put together and buttered together, and then they're pulled apart to attend to the plants another day, it's liable to bust the ends of the panels off. This goes on first, and it's often forgotten. I often forget it as many times as I've done it. Having got the two side panels together, then these two bottom panel hooks are put on. And it's on these, of course, which depends on the stability. It's an horrible noise when they're being put together, but don't let that frighten you. This is the dodgy bit, getting this top panel on, and this is where you mustn't get any nerves, otherwise you get fidgety and you quickly break a pane of glass. There you are, trim it up, it's as simple as that, and it's quite rigid when it's put together properly like that.
This is one kind of waste you can get round. But this kind of waste, and this, you want to watch out for and avoid. Think of ways to avoid waste. Food doesn't grow in the shops, you know.
Ruth now faces the challenge of turning breast of lamb into a tasty dish.
I'm just going to take these little bones out here because we're going to put this in the saucepan today and try and do them cold with and then egg and breadcrumb it ready for tomorrow to make just a little change. And then we go along to this one. These used to cost you about twopence in old money years ago, but I don't know, they're more than that now. I shall save all these little bones because I shall put them into the bottom of the saucepan and a few over the top. We'll get all the flavour that we can, and then the juice I shall also save and make that into soup. You've got to use everything, you see. You mustn't throw anything away. Oh, it was very valuable during the war. I mean, it was something that you purchased cheaply, much cheaper than anything else. And of course, it was cheap meat you were looking for because you were rationed by money. Now, I'm just doing this so that it makes a cut, so that when the cooks, this will shrink a little, so it won't all cockle up. So you have to, we've got to fit it into the saucepan, so we shall have to fit the lamb to the saucepan. Well, we've got a few bones in there at the moment, and then we could put the meat in on top of this, because if you keep that in the bottom, you've got a little bolster, so when the water goes in, it'll cook in the steam more, and it won't stick to the bottom of the saucepan. Then we've got some more carrot and onion to go in. A bit of parsley for flavour, and if you've got a bay leaf or a little bit of thyme or anything like that, you can have that in as well. Pepper and salt, anything that will give it a bit of taste. Drop of water, not too much because we don't want to drown it, because it should set, if left overnight, with a little jelly in it. And that'll want to cook for about an hour and a half on a very low heat.
To go with the lamb, Ruth has chosen something really filling.
You nearly finished?
Yes.
I think do these leeks then for this leek pudding. I'll show you what to do.
It's not going to be difficult, is it?
No, difficult as you like to make it. So, no, we don't want all this up here. So if we take this off about here, that piece can go over there. This you'll have to take off quite low because it's getting a bit late in the season for leeks at the moment, so... And then it's into 4. So we do them through again. Now they want to go into lengths of about 1 inch. I've got a Scotch inch, of course, they don't always go quite straight. So we'll put those into there to be washed, and they'll want a good wash. I'll leave you with this one and the knife, and don't cut your fingers off. Oh, I think everybody tried everything that came out. I mean, you'd got your kitchen front that was broadcast every day. You've got leaflets of different things. You always looked at them. Leek pudding with potato and suet crust from Food Facts for the kitchen front. So we want 8 ounces of self-raising flour.
To save on the fat ration, the pastry is made with flour, suet and potato.
And then we'll have 2 ounces of suet. Now we've got 2 ounces of grated potato. The potato will help you save some of your fat ration towards perhaps something else later in the week, a bit of cake or something. It's a very small ration, so we're trying to eke it out by using potato. You can either use raw potato or mashed, and it should make you quite a nice light pastry. As if that could just about fit the basin now, and if it doesn't, we'll make it. This is the idea of having the margarine in, you see, because it all helps hold it up. lifted enough water with these to keep them moist. These will boil down when they're inside, so you'll you know, get quite a bit of crust around it, which is help fill you up in wartime. Plenty of suet crust. That's right. It's done now. Just get a drop of water to seal the edge of this with. So we make that fit. That will fit by the time Ruth's finished. And then we'll have to put a little piece of greaseproof pound or some old margarine paper, because we don't want the cloth too dirty, because we don't like washing dirty cloths. That's it.
In a garden the size of Chiltern, with its 4 acres, compost heaps had to be constructed on the grand scale if they were to maintain the fertility of the soil.
We're going to have a layer of this garden spent crop refuse at the moment, and we want a layer about 6 inches deep and trod well firm, or as firm as we can get it, and then we're going to put a layer of the straw on. As the heap's being built, you must keep each layer well trod down, and you must keep the sides like a wall. So you must put some really solid material around on the outside and then build the middle in. But tread as near as you can to the outside of the heap all the time as you're building up, because we want it when it's finished like a box. We don't want it to slip out one side or slip out the other side, or the top to slip off and fall all over the show.
It's essential to wet thoroughly each layer, as dry vegetation won't rot down. It's then sprinkled with a handful of sulphate of ammonia to supply extra nitrogen to speed up the process. If this was not available, the ministry suggested using sewage sludge. The layers are dressed with lime. This neutralises the natural acids which hinder decomposition.
I think in due course it'll be a good heap. Okay. By July, another heap like that.
Right, just going to cut this into 6 little portions, and then into the flour.
The breast of lamb has been cooked for an hour and a half and allowed to cool. Ruth now starts on the last stage.
And pop it into the egg, which will stick on. We should probably have to push it a little bit because they don't always dry out quite straight. And into the breadcrumbs and cover it up nicely. And that should make us a nice little crust when we've fried it. The fat we're using today is some little bits of fat that I've collected up over the week from different bits of meat and stuff that we've cooked, and we've got it all into a basin. We've rendered it down and stirred it all up to make it look alike, and we're going to cook the lamb in it today because we want to save as much of our fat ration as possible to do other things with. Joyce, would you like to come and take the pudding up, please?
Yes, coming. Something smells good.
I think it'll be all right. Mind your fingers, won't you? Because it's...
Well, I'll use the cloth.
All right, then. And I'll dish straight up out of the pan. Okay? All right? Yep. I'll just start putting some out.
Plenty for me, please.
Well, I don't know about there being too plenty. Have to have what you're given, like the children. They like it. I'll put that little bit back on the stove. When you've had that, if you're still hungry, you can have a little bit more. rather like the leek pudding because I think it's something that you could use today, really. And you know, if you've got a nice lamb dish and you wanted to bump it up and make it seem a bit more, leek pudding would be an ideal thing to do it with.
This is the BBC Home Service. Here is a special news bulletin. Denmark has been invaded by German forces, and Norway is at war with Germany.
As the war edges closer, the beauty of the conservatory must be sacrificed. But Harry preserves some of his favourite glasshouse shrubs by planting them in nearby woodland.
This afternoon here we've been planting some trees which have been used in the glasshouses for several years. But now the period we're running into, I'm afraid, is not going to run to the labour of looking after them. It's an economy run which I'm afraid we've all got to face. And when you think of the collection that was here, there was rhododendrons and azaleas and this sort of thing. And the prunus are quite able to look after themselves. And they can come out here and in years to come somebody will still be able to cut bloom off of them, but of course they won't be able to force it like we've done.
Like the shrubs, people now had to learn to fend for themselves. A growing shortage of eggs drove householders to keep chickens in their back gardens. At her billet, Annie, helped by Joyce, takes delivery of 6 pullets. They're Rhode Island Red cross White Wyandotte and are at the point of lay.
Okay, mind a step.
Right. Hey, Annie, there's an egg in there. Is there? Oh, that's good.
Backyard poultry keepers were advised to get their stock from reliable breeders. Established hatcheries saw business boom.
Right then, Joyce, if you open the gate,
Right.
and then as soon as I get one, I have to ask you to close it up quickly. I'll go for this one here. Come on. Whoops. Okay. There we go.
When eggs were rationed a year later, those who kept chickens had to give up their egg
That's the first
coupons
one.
before they could buy any poultry food. With April giving way to May, the news from Europe got bleaker. Winston Churchill, as First Lord of the Admiralty, had long been waging war at sea. Now he warned of imminent danger on land.
It seems rather hard when spring is caressing the land and when after the rigours of winter our fields and woodlands are reviving, but all our thoughts must be turned and bent upon sterner war. And today, this Saturday, so far, nothing has happened on the sea or in the air. But more than 1 million German soldiers, including all their active divisions and armored divisions, are drawn up, ready to attack at a few hours' notice all along the frontiers of Luxembourg, of Belgium and of Holland.
Churchill was a grand gentleman, there was no doubt about it, and I think in all honesty he loved the war, but it's a good thing he did, because of course he was our salvation without a shadow of doubt.
Days later, Hitler's armies smashed their way across the frontiers of Belgium and France. In a series of lightning strikes, they broke through the Allied defences.
Joyce! Hurry up, because Winnie's going to be on the wireless in about a couple of minutes.
At home, the crisis on the continent toppled the government of Neville Chamberlain. Winston Churchill now came to power at the head of a national coalition government.
I speak to you for the first time as Prime Minister in a solemn hour for the life of our country, of our empire, of our allies, and above all, of the cause of freedom. A tremendous battle is raging in France and Flanders. The Germans, by a remarkable
Oh, I think we all thought so much of Winston Churchill. He was a great sort of morale booster, and sometimes he didn't always have pleasant things to tell you, so that you, when he was going to broadcast, you didn't really know what you were going to hear, but he'd always got a wonderful uplift at the end of a speech to sort of make you feel good.
Arm yourselves and be ye men of valour, and be in readiness for the conflict, for it is better for us to perish in battle than to look upon the outrage of our nation and our altars. As the will of God is in heaven, even so let him do.
The German advance forced the British Army to retreat to the beaches of Dunkirk. A massive rescue operation brought many of the troops home to a country facing the prospect of a long and bitter siege.
What General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin.
When we look back now, 2 years gone by, to a dark and stormy sky, do you remember how we survived? Come rain or shine, it turned out fine. Though the memories are fading of those days so long ago now, when skies were turning gray, let's not forget how together we blew away the clouds to let the sun